Hey guys, this is Brock Sampson and from Robox Fitness, and I want to do a small bit of a deep dive onto the RondsjeOm Terschelling, some of the notes that I took for our lessons learned, and probably what we can do better for the next one. So I often use ChatGPT to help me with different things, and I also ask ChatGPT to help me with defining what are some critical questions I could ask myself about the event so I can improve. I've had a relationship with ChatGPT for a while, using a function to create an analytical view or an analytical 6 month, I wouldn't say, no, not an analytical view, but a 6 month plan from an analytical perspective. I'm a business analyst, so this has made sense to me. And it came up with a good plan, a 6 month plan to run the RondsjeOm. But through that journey, I found some mismatches. I defined some things that were a little bit more specific for what I wanted to do. And now when I ask ChatGPT for its own critical value of its initial plan, I'm quite surprised because it's actually very critical of the plan that that I first received, that I followed. But it gave me a place to start from for the next one. So I thought this might be a good way to take my lessons learned, compartmentalize them, and hopefully there might be some advantages for those of you who might like to do something similar in the future. But it definitely helps me think about what I want to do for at least this local event created specifically for Terschelling and how we want to move forward. So I'm going to move over to another tab, and we're going to talk a little bit more about specifically some questions that I asked ChatGPT on how I can move forward and do a bit better in this event. So just to give you a bit of a background, I did ask ChatGPT to create a 6 month plan for me. And the 6 month plan looked pretty sound, but I think it did base a lot of its planning off of a previous plan during COVID that used Instagram and other social media networks to advertise the event. And it was appealing to me because initially I wanted to create something that was going to be available for a very broad audience. But my unique selling point was the fact that I was doing it for this local environment of Terschelling, and for the community of sloop rowers that were here. My primary goal was to invite more persons who not only use the ergometer, the row ergometer, just for rowing, or as a capability to train to get better for on-water rowing. I really wanted to extend my capacity and get out there to those like my hybrid community, those in the who use the ergometer in high rocks competitions or CrossFit competitions or other functional fitness areas. And so I wanted to define an event that might be attractive to not only rowers or sloop rowers, but to a broader audience. And that was my initial goal. But over time, through other research and through just more reflection, I defined what my purpose really was, and it was actually to define something that was a bit more local because I was doing it for the local. So I needed to create something that was a bit more localized for the sloop rowers in this region, not only on Terschelling, but in Harlingen and in Friesland and the other areas where sloop rowing is very important. But also, it wasn't just an event. The whole idea of using ErgZone is from the coaching capability, the ability to create environments so persons can continue to train while getting ready for larger events, such as the HATE, the Harlingen Terschelling race coming up in May. So this is a capability to create winter training so sloop rowing teams could stay fit while they were off the water. Sounds noble, right? But I defined that a little too late. And I also defined things and didn't actually use the modus, I think, that the types of crews or persons that I like to attract to the event would normally use to be aware of these types of events. So I'm going to go through a couple of things here. It's going to be a little lengthy, maybe about 30 minutes or so, but I'm going to try to break it apart in some areas. Again, I used ChatGPT to give me a really, really critical view of what I did for the last 6 months. And what I was surprised at is that ChatGPT was very critical of itself. And there are some hard lessons to learn. So let's just go through this and just bear with me. I think it's some valuable information, at least for me and maybe for you as well. First question, was this audience precisely defined or aspirationally defined? So yes, it was originally aspirationally defined. I wanted to get people who wanted to like rowing, who wanted to use the ergometer for this particular event. But again, as I moved into looking into the local environment and becoming more of a localized, purpose-driven event, I really needed to concentrate on the local audience, which is the sloop rowers and sloop rowers training for the Hate. And I failed at that. I used Instagram and cast my net way too broad to rowers who were competitive rowers in the traditional sense, rowers or persons in the CrossFit community who use a rowing machine for different types of things. And my net was just cast too broad. So I really did miss my very essential target audience, which may have boosted participation quite a bit. Question number 2, did the distribution channels actually match where the audience lives? And I don't think it did. I used Instagram Reels and Stories. That was initially what was suggested that I do. But that actually is not where my target audience, I think, actually lives to be promoted in these types of events. Usually WhatsApp groups, captains, and existing rowing networks is the way to kind of get these things going. So building reputation and an audience in those networks is what I initially wanted to do. Of course, moving into the sloop rowing community was new for me. I know the rowing community pretty well, but sloop rowing is new, and they're unaware of my coaching capabilities or what I've done before. So building credibility in that audience takes time, and I wasn't willing to take the time to do that. I wanted to create an event, a virtual rowing event for people to get involved with, but I didn't spend the time to actually connect with my target audience. So these are things that I'm learning and I hope to get better at. Did you build partnerships early enough? And I don't think so. ChatGPT says something about 6 months of content is not equivalent to 6 months of institutional buy-in. Keen. Correct. 6 months of shooting everything off in the Reels or Instagram or Facebook stories or all those kind of things, buying ads and all those kind of great things to make things try to work. But I don't think my audience really uses those channels. And also the partnerships to build in, or when I say partnerships, these are not only at an organization level, but also from the captain and coach level in the sloop rowing community. No, I did not spend the time to do that as much as I should have. So if we go into another question, was the commitment too high for a first edition? And the commitment here means that a 6-month commitment to training to do a 5,000 meter or a really good marathon, a 24 or a half marathon. Yes, as a rowing coach, I understand the commitment associated with doing your best at those levels. But when promoting an event or promoting something that people can get involved with early enough or creating particular targets, maybe 6 months was a little too much. I think it probably diffused my message a little bit. So there are some things I want to think about in creating shorter timeline challenges or specifics to reach particular goals, but I think 6 months was a bit much. Did I validate demand before building? Of course not. No, I'm a rowing coach, and I have some big ideas and visions. And usually, sometimes when I think of something that could be good, it doesn't always match to what people want. And I do fail at that sometimes. So it would have been great if I created a pilot event, something smaller, or a 4-week challenge, or a closed session maybe with one particular club to see if it would be beneficial. At the end, results of this particular RondsjeOm Terschelling, I ended up working with one particular club and a couple of members in it, and it provided huge benefit for them. But it was a little too late. It was basically the club was acting and participating because they already trusted me. But it was late. That trust wouldn't be able to expand into other clubs because it was just managed a little too late. So big lessons learned there. Here's a hard one. Was the messaging about you, about me, or about them? No, the messaging was a lot about me. The messaging was about what I thought people might want to do, my thoughts about the different events that people might want to get involved in, because of course everybody wants a goal. And of course a winter goal is good for everyone. And training for a winter goal is also very, very good. And these are the things I wanted to promote because this is what I thought that I wanted to push. But it's not maybe the markers that were more about them. As sloop rowers, what markers are relevant for their progress? Rowing 34,000 kilometers together in a rowing boat, reaching the finish line is one thing, but in a training modus, what types of things can I create as markers so they can see their success? Of course, ErgZone allows me to do that through creating different training modules and pursuits of that measure. But I didn't advertise as much. I advertised just, here's the 5K and do your best. But it wasn't about what markers that I could create along the way so you can judge your progress. And these are things I could probably talk to. It might have been more meaningful for the local clubs and their captains. Question number 8. Did you create direct outreach or rely on organic pull? Here's a big one for me, and ChatGPT says very frankly, digital awareness rarely converts niche sport audiences without direct contact. And I've learned that. Digital awareness, no matter how good I can be at that, or hiring people to do that for me, or using all my time to create the best reels or IG stories or anything like that, I did not make the direct contact. Why? I'm sometimes afraid of making direct contact, like, a sales call. Crawling somebody up and doing a sales call is a challenge for most and for me as well. I would much rather rely on creating exciting content on these social media things. And so people say, whoa, I want to be a part of that because it's nice and shiny. But actually creating the leadership or creating the, what would you call it? Not creating leadership, but having the experience or having the validation of as a coach in this community. That takes time to build. So anyway, this is a big one. Did I create direct outreach or rely on organic pull? Digital outreach, the direct outreach is something I avoided because I wanted to rely more on organic pull, and that didn't work. So huge. Did I try to, question number 10, did I try to scale before achieving product market fit? If one club did not adopt it fully, scaling to many clubs was premature. Thank you, ChatGPT, for your honesty. This is true. getting this to be adopted fully in a local club and working that way, I would have built the confidence to move into other clubs, because then also using word of mouth and seeing those types of things could have been more beneficial. Now, I did achieve that in the latter end of the RondsjeOm Terschelling, because then we're able to achieve some fundraising goals. We were able to take the training that some participants were in, and they were able to achieve particular goals. So they now have a voice to talk to on my behalf, which is great. But how nice would it have been to create many more of those earlier on in small capacities, and then they could actually talk to others and say, hey, this worked at a local capacity for our club, or at a smaller capacity, maybe you want to move into something a little broader. So again, I'm learning that it takes the hard work, it takes a direct contact, it means building the credibility locally with these clubs, which takes time and maybe years and stuff, my thought was, okay, I'm an Olympic level rowing coach. That credibility should just pass on fairly quickly. But I am in the Netherlands. I'm an American coach in the Netherlands. Some people know about me. Some people know that I'm a decent coach. Some people don't. And maybe most people, especially in the sloop rowing community, have no idea who this joker who is. So, learning for something else in the future. How do I build that credibility early on locally in small organizations, so I can build the influencer kind of idea that I want to on Instagram and all these other places? How can I do that? Just doing it the real way, in the hard work, and getting people to talk about you if you do good work for them. So one of the things it says here, what is the harder reflection? Good question. If I stripped away all the branding, the Rondsje events, the Robox Fitness, my personal branding, all these types of things to try to promote this idea of training for a goal, was this a digital event or a winter training solution for competitive crews? ChatGPT, good question. It is a winter training solution for competitive crews. That's exactly what it is. It's not really a digital event. I think like a lot of suppliers and like even ErgZone, or even not ErgData, but EXR and some other suppliers that do this type of work, Move Labs, for example, they're great at creating events, and so people can participate in events. This is good. My idea of creating the event was really actually just to prove a point that training for a goal is great, and being able to have an event to show off what you've been able to accomplish as that goal was really my primary goal. But I was branding it like a digital event only. I wasn't saying, is this a solution for our competitive crews? And if it truly is, it's not really about content marketing. It's really about relationship marketing. And that's what we've talked about. It's the relationships that I build, awareness of who I am, awareness of what I'm doing, awareness of what my really local driven, my purpose really is. And I do have a good purpose. My purpose is to design things that people can continue to work during the winter or during the summer, create goals for themselves so they can continue to stay fit for the rest of their lives. And through rowing or these other events or these other avenues, this is one way to do so. And I think the digital world is a world to work in. And many coaches do this. It's just a different platform in doing so. But all that to say, I think the relationship marketing is where the sweet spot is. So this is probably one segment to end on, but maybe I'm going to start another segment here. So pretty much, I did not reach my target audience. Of one of 3 failures, ChatGPT is very honest with me. Misidentification, A. misalignment, and premature scaling. And these are maybe 3 areas to talk about. So the first, I want to diagnose the exact target segment. And what we've just talked about before, I think structurally, it is a good idea to target competitive crews for the Hate race. This is a particular race in this region. It gives, during the winter season, traditionally, crews are either off the water or choose different things to stay fit. But it's difficult for them to train together in a particular environment as a rowing crew for these larger races coming up in May and the spring. In this digital environment, online programming as a group and creating programming for groups could be a good way to allow them to work in environments that they're used to, continue to train during the winter, and be successful for the spring and the summer. So yes, it looks like that competitive crews for the Hate was the way to grow because the training of collectively, this is what we talked about. Winter training is a constraint just because they can't go on the water. Most crews can't go on the water just because it's uncomfortable. It's hard to get good training in because it's not only the water, but it's just the weather outside. And getting people together during the hard winter times is difficult on the water. It's just sometimes easier to get people doing something together as a team inside. And luckily, we have this idea of rowing inside together to get us through the winter so we can be successful during the spring. So we have that ability. It seems it's the way to go. But the bit is I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't talk to anybody in the sloop rowing community. I tried to digitally create awareness, but I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't do the one-on-one relationship building. And this is where I think I can really improve, one of my biggest lessons learned. ChatGPT says that the adoption of my idea, it's a partial adoption, but the issue is positioning or friction. Friction means how easy it is to get to the product and be involved. But I think my biggest one is positioning. How do I position what I want to do that's most relevant to the target audience that I want to talk to? Again, I've identified, I started way too broad. There's a lot of people I want to talk to. I can create particular events specific to those target audiences. But for the RondsjeOm Terschelling, which is about sloop rowing in this region, I have to talk to those guys. It's not about CrossFitters, it's not about high roxers, it's about the sloop rowers. And that's actually an audience. Even though I wanted to create something for them, I didn't actually talk to them directly. So it has this concept about now, number 2, the big one, redesigning the offer around a narrow group. So it goes into talking about, I don't want to spend too much time here, but it talks about solutions. And maybe in another broadcast we can talk about solutions as much. But I'm not really here to talk about solutions. It's about the failures or the things that I can see, opportunities for improvement, as they say, so I can make something a little bit, I can still create the event or create the goals, but to start talking to the right types of people so they're aware to take this opportunity, and it might be a benefit to them, but they need to know about it because I need to talk to them directly. Here's a big one, the hard reflection, ChatGPT says. Your 6-month plan, my 6-month plan, no, it was a 6-month plan ChatGPT prepared for me, may have assumed that content building in Instagram, Facebook, blah, 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 pretty pictures, i.e. pretty pictures, equals awareness, equals participation. But in this niche, kind of like sport ecosystem, as it calls it, which is true. High rocks, okay, shiny, people want to take pictures and look good on television, and CrossFit, these are not really niche ecosystems anymore. These are kind of broader. But if we're talking into a niche environment like sloop rowing, the equation is usually trust, leadership, captain buy-in, crew adoption, and then word of mouth. So it's true. My primary growth lever is not Instagram. It is relationship density inside the rowing network. Yes, ChatGPT, thank you very much for making that hard reflection, but you're absolutely correct. Trust, and I found this out. Even though people trust me, I didn't get sometimes the captain buy-in. Did I spend enough time getting their buy-in? Maybe, maybe not. Did I feed them what I thought would be good for them outside of just listening to them and seeing how I can create an approach that might be beneficial for them? From captain buy-in, influencer buy-in, then I get crew adoption. And that's what happened with me here in Terschelling, is that I didn't necessarily get crew adoptions because I didn't get the buy-in from the captains initially. And then once that happens, then word of mouth just generates more participation. So thank you for the hard reflection, ChatGPT. I understand this, and I'll move forward with this. Let's see, a couple other things. ChatGPT also says, what I ran was not a market activation strategy. It was a relationship-driven pilot disguised as a scaled campaign. True. Relationship-driven pilot, purpose-driven design go hand in hand. I'm aware of that now. This is fun. It was a relationship-driven pilot, purpose-driven design, local, goes hand in hand. I think those are the same types of wordings. It means the same thing. And it was disguised as a scaled campaign. Hard truth. A scaled campaign. Well, I like the idea of things being scalable. A campaign. Yeah. Maybe a little too much. It was disguised as a campaign, I think. The campaign overrode what I actually wanted to do, I think, for the local environment here. The campaign through digital means, the campaign through influencers on these digital means, all these things I thought about, creating LinkedIn email it's that, like for example, the email marketing campaign, it actually kind of failed quite a bit. I had 400 persons that I tried to outreach to, and I'm down to 290 or so. I lost 100 people. Why? It's because of the things we just talked about. The email marketing campaign was really driven for this pursuit of building participants around this idea of course, people wanting to row in a digital environment to succeed in goals that they will attempt for themselves, and they'll train for it. Yeah, but that's not really the local driven approach that I wanted to do, which was to target the sloop rowing community. So yeah, interesting, because what I wanted to do, what I thought I wanted to do, it was overridden by this flashy kind of idea of campaigns using the digital world to do so. And I'm learning that, I think people will learn about it or participate, but the localized campaign and what we're doing local has to be strong. Building the participation and people who want to get on board, like at the end of this particular, this first RondsjeOm Terschelling, there were some random people who were getting on board after the fact, after they saw some of the, they heard about a lot of the results that were taking place. There was money that was being generated or raised through a group of ladies who trained and were successful to a half marathon. And that led to participants who are like, wow, this inspired me, and I like to participate. How nice would it be to create some of those inspirational stories beforehand or along the way so it drives participation for the actual quote unquote event? So things I'm learning about how to be more successful in the long run. My diagnosis, my distribution channel was incorrect. We talked about that. Thank you, ChatGPT. The offer was positioned as an event. Crews do not need another event. Okay. There's a lot of events out there. Virtual World Indoor Series by World Rowing. Concept 2 does this. Rowing RP3 does this. These different events that are being pulled together. But they don't need another event. They need it to be purpose-driven, like I talked about. It's about how do I create structural programming so they can be successful in their chosen modus for, for the Hate race, which is a physical event. Now, so the offer was positioned as an event. Yes, event is okay, but it has to be positioned in a different way first. And the event is kind of like the icing on the cake, not the 80%. The 20% is the event. How can you be on a leaderboard? How can I show my efforts amongst others? How can I potentially race against others in that competitive modus on the ergometer? That's the event, but all the stuff beforehand is what's the important bits. The training, getting people involved, the community around the training. These are the important bits that I did miss. So big lessons learned. You attempted scale before authority. That's the word I was looking for. Yes, I think we've talked about that. I tried to scale this, whatever I was doing, in a big way for a large bit of people, even for this sloop rowing community that I was targeting, but I have no authority in this community yet. I do say yet. I'm still working on that. It's been a year. So my visions sometimes are more grander than what the actual reality is. This is good to know. So, the hard truth about all this is, and ChatGPT puts it in big red letters for me, and I'll just tell you about this. Your 6-month campaign failed because you tried to persuade the market. Okay. In the niche sport ecosystem, such as the sloop rowing community, persuasion is weak. Agreed. Adoption flows through authority and proximity. Agreed. I've already discovered something valuable. People who know you do participate, that's well. The question is, how do you extend trust beyond your immediate circle? Yes. My immediate circle. How do I build or extend that trust beyond my immediate circle? Well, I know that takes time, but some of the work is being done. The results of the event, even though small, they did build trust in the capability. They built trust in the fundraising platform and what we were trying to do for Spieren. And people who saw it live, and for example, people had good questions and had good feedback towards that. So now it's just continuing to take what I've done now and build trust outside of my immediate circle, which is here in Terschelling. I do the crews here on Terschelling, the island. There's about 11 of them. They know me, and they know about what I do, and they see value in that. Now, that trust, how do I let other crews know about that same idea, what I'm trying to do? and then having them actually turn the key and actually participate in something. So yeah, these are some questions to have along the way, and some things to think about. So anyway, that's all I have today. I think that's good, and it lets me reflect on a lot of things of what I've done better. Now, ChatGPT offers other things that I can do to help along the way, and I'll look into those. But I think the important takeaway for me is to say, I have to pick up the phone. I have to tell and say, hey guys, I know the challenges that you might have. What are you currently doing to train? If I can assist in training, what would that look like? And what would that look like in a virtual environment? And then through that, would you be willing to participate in something where other crews, just like you, would also like to do something for their benefit as well? So this is the biggest lessons learned. And I appreciate the opportunity. It was 6 months of good hard work, but I tell you, the hard work was kind of just misdirected. The hard work was trying to build into a digital and become to gain authority too quickly through the shiny things that Instagram and all these Facebook things have to offer. Luckily, I did not have the budget to do advertisements and all those kind of things and get influencers on board and stuff like. I didn't have the budget for that, but I worked maybe a little too hard in trying to do that on my own by using digital tools like a MetroCool, which allows me to plan posts early on and things like that. And I think for established brands, that really, really does work. But for my brands who have a purpose towards them, it really just takes time and to getting people on board. So anyway, this is what I've come to understand about what happened through the RondsjeOm Terschelling. Now, the target audience through the CrossFit and High Rocks, I have ideas around particular trainings that might be specific for them. There's capabilities in using multiple ergometers to accomplish goals. There's ways to digitize their current games or localized events that they do through these online tools. So great, there's opportunities there, but again, it's the same thing. The CrossFit community, some people know about me, but I'm not picking up the phone. Hey guys, well, except one CrossFit Volfront and I Macon, they know me because I've done a lot of work for them. But any other CrossFit studio, it's like, am I writing the email to them? Am I creating the customer relationship management systems around working with potential customers? And I'm not investing in that as much because it's hard and it takes a lot of picking up the phone and talking to people. So you have to get better at that, and I understand that. So anyway, thank you for your time, and I hope you see some benefit, or maybe you can take some of the things I've learned from this pilot event and maybe for something that you want to use as well. But please stay with me if you like to see how my journey continues. I really do have a heart towards the ergometer, it becoming something a little bit more competitive in the future. But what it's done for hundreds and thousands of people that I've worked, not particularly worked with, but through the the global environment of how an ergometer, whether it's a row ergometer, ski erg, bike ergometers, or these other ergometers are out there, how they're able to really benefit people who are looking to train smarter and stay fit for the rest of their lives. So it's broader than rowing, just to let you know. All right, thanks again, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. this off, and maybe for audio wise I can sync this up pretty well. Yeah. Press record.